Picture this. It's 5 a.m. in a warehouse on the outskirts of Tokyo, the kind of building that could swallow 6 football fields whole, and cars are rolling through on greasy conveyor lanes under buzzing fluorescent lights. This is a Japanese vehicle auction house, and every single week, tens of thousands of used cars pass through lanes just like this one. A battered sedan rolls up next. The rear bumper is zip-tied on. The tires are shredded down to the cord from years of sideways abuse on some mountain pass nobody will ever name. The odometer reads past 300,000 kilometers. That's roughly 186,000 miles. And when the auctioneer twists the key, the engine fires on the very first crank, settles into a smooth idle, and doesn't miss a single beat. The bidding goes wild. Not despite the abuse. Because of it. Because everybody standing in that room knows exactly what kind of Japanese engineering can survive that kind of punishment for 2, 3, sometimes 4 decades and still start every single morning like it just left the factory. That right there is the entire mythology behind Japanese domestic market performance sedans and coupes from the 1990s, and today we are counting down 8 of the most abused, most bulletproof, and most stubbornly immortal examples ever built. Here's the premise, and honestly, it's a strange one once you actually sit with it. Every single car on this list was an engineering masterpiece the moment it rolled off a Japanese assembly line. Turbocharged inline sixes with iron blocks and forged internals. Twin-turbo boxer engines bolted to full-time all-wheel drive. And one genuinely unrepeatable engine, a production 3-rotor wankel that no manufacturer on planet Earth has ever built again. And yet, for decades, if you were standing on American soil, you were legally forbidden from titling a single one of them. Not because they were dangerous. Not because they were unreliable. Because of a piece of federal legislation called the Imported Vehicle Safety Compliance Act of 1988. That act, enforced jointly by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Environmental Protection Agency, said that any vehicle not originally engineered to United States federal motor vehicle safety standards had to wait 25 full years, counted from its exact month of manufacture, before it could legally cross the border and receive a title. 25 years of watching grainy best motoring tapes. 25 years of Option magazine scans and Drift Tengoku videos. 25 years of chasing these cars around a Gran Turismo menu screen, wondering what it would actually feel like to sit behind the wheel of a machine your own government wouldn't let you register. That forbidden mystique is exactly why these 8 cars became legends first and legal imports second. And it's precisely why they were engineered the way they were engineered in the first place, because every single one of them had to survive brutal daily commuting, punishing Japanese winters, and in more than a few cases, years of dedicated drift abuse on tracks and Tuj mountain passes, all while somehow still passing Japan's notoriously strict Shaken inspection system every single time. If you are into this kind of deep, fact-checked, no-nonsense car history, do me a favor and smash that subscribe button right now before we drop into the countdown, because there are 7 more of these legends coming and you genuinely do not want to miss a single one. Alright, enough talking. Let's get into it. Kicking off at number 8, we've got the smallest car on this entire list by a country mile, the Suzuki Cappuccino. Built from 1991 to 1995 under the internal chassis code EA11R, the Cappuccino was engineered specifically to exploit Japan's K-car tax bracket, which meant Suzuki's engineers had to work inside brutal limits. An engine no larger than 660 cubic centimeters, a body no longer than 3.3 meters, and a width capped under 1.4 meters. What they built inside those limits is honestly astonishing. A 657 cubic centimeter turbocharged, intercooled, double overhead cam inline 3-cylinder engine, code-named F6A, producing 64 horsepower, which sounds tiny until you learn the entire car weighs just 725 kilograms, about 1,600 pounds. Its front mid-engine, rear-wheel drive, with nearly perfect 50-50 weight distribution, 4-wheel disc brakes, and a genius 3-panel removable roof that can turn the car into a hardtop, a T-top, a Targa, or a full convertible depending on your mood. And here's the abuse-proof part. That F6A engine uses a cast iron block, which means owners have spent 3 decades cranking the boost and regularly pulling 100 to 120 horsepower, nearly double the factory rating, without the bottom end so much as flinching. Suzuki built around 28,000 of these things total, almost none of them officially sold outside Japan, and because of the 25-year rule, the earliest 1991 Cappuccinos only became legally importable into the United States back in 2016. A tiny, forbidden, turbocharged Japanese roadster that most Americans still don't even know exists. Moving on to number 7, we head into Honda territory with a Prelude Type SH. Built on the 5th-generation BB6 chassis from 1997 through 2001, the American spec Type SH ran Honda's H22A4 engine, a 2.2-liter naturally aspirated VTEC 4-cylinder producing right around 195 horsepower at launch, later bumped to 200. But horsepower was never the headline here. The headline was a system called the Active Torque Transfer System, or ATTS, a hydraulically controlled front differential that actively shifts torque to the outside front wheel mid-corner. in a front-wheel drive car. Honda basically built a computer-controlled workaround for the laws of physics, and it worked so well that Car and Driver magazine crowned the Type SH the best handling car under $30,000 back in 1997. Now here's the twist that makes this one genuinely forbidden. The Type SH you could buy new in an American Honda dealership was actually the detuned cousin. Over in Japan, Honda sold a version called the Sur S, running a higher compression red top H22A engine making 220 horsepower, paired with the exact same ATTS hardware, and that specific JDM variant never once touched American shores through official channels. If you wanted the full-strength version, the 25-year rule was, and still is, the only legal door in. At number 6, we're stepping into something genuinely unrepeatable, the Mazda Yunos Cosmo. Produced from 1990 to 1995 and sold exclusively through Mazda's short-lived luxury Yunos dealer channel, the JC Series Cosmo remains the only production car in automotive history to be powered by a 3-rotor Wankel engine. That engine, code-named 20B-REW, displaced 1,962 cubic centimeters and ran sequential twin turbochargers, officially rated at 280 horsepower under Japan's Gentleman's Agreement power cap, though independent testing and tuner consensus both suggest the real figure comfortably cleared 300 horsepower. The Cosmo was electronically limited to 180 kilometers an hour, about 112 miles an hour, but was fully capable of 255 kilometers an hour, roughly 158 miles an hour, if you remove the limiter. And on top of the unrepeatable engine, the Cosmo pulled off a genuine world first. It was the first production car on the entire planet to feature a built-in touchscreen GPS navigation system, years before anyone else even attempted it. Mazda built only 8,875 Cosmos across the entire run, split roughly 60-40 between the twin-rotor 13B and the triple-rotor 20B, and every single one stayed locked inside Japan. A rebadged American version under Mazda's planned Amati luxury brand was actually on the table and never happened, which means this triple-rotor Grand Tourer simply never had a legal path to America until decades later. At number 5, we've got the car that quietly fathered one of the most famous rally bloodlines in history, the Mitsubishi Galant V R4. The story actually starts back in 1987 with the 6th-generation E39A, built specifically to homologate for Group A World Rally Championship competition. That car introduced the 4G63T turbocharged 4-cylinder paired with a full-time viscous coupling all-wheel drive system, plus 4-wheel steering, and it went on to win World Rally Championship rounds with drivers like Kenneth Eriksson and Pentti Arikala between 1989 and 1991. That exact engine and that exact all-wheel drive architecture became the direct mechanical foundation for every single Lancer evolution from the Evo 1 all the way through the Evo 9. But the version we're actually crowning tonight is the final chapter of the story, the 8th-generation EC5A Galant V R4, built from 1996 to 2002. Forget the 4-cylinder, this one runs a 6A13TT, a 2.5-liter twin-turbocharged V6 making 280 horsepower on the manual gearbox, paired with active yaw control, a torque-vectoring rear differential system so advanced it later got borrowed straight into the Evo 8 MR. And unlike its 1980s ancestor, which Mitsubishi actually did sell in small numbers on American soil, this final, most sophisticated V R4 generation was never officially exported anywhere. It is pure, unfiltered, twin-turbo, all-wheel drive Japanese engineering that America was never invited to buy. At number 4, we're talking wagons and sedans that spent their entire lives hauling cargo, kids, and full boost pressure simultaneously, the Subaru Legacy GT-B. Built on the facelift BD5 sedan and BG5 touring wagon chassis between 1996 and 1998, the GT-B ran Subaru's EJ20R, a 2-liter sequential twin-turbo flat-4 boxer engine making 280 horsepower on manual transmission cars, the automatic capped lower at 260 because Subaru's engineers decided the 4-speed gearbox of the era simply couldn't survive full power reliably. Power went to all 4 wheels through a permanent, full-time all-wheel drive system, and Subaru fitted factory Bilstein dampers and forged BBS wheels straight from the factory floor. Here's the part that tells you everything about how Subaru thought about this car. To save weight, they actually deleted comfort features that came standard on the lesser GT trim: no power seats, no cruise control, no sunroof. This was a family hauler built like a rally support vehicle, and it earned a reputation across Japan and export markets like the United Kingdom for racking up enormous mileage while barely blinking. It was never federalized for American roads, full stop, which makes every single Legacy GT-B currently on American soil a 25-year rule import, no exceptions. At number 3, we're back to rear-wheel drive sedan territory with a car that quietly shares its entire drivetrain with one of the most famous chassis codes in Japanese performance history, the Nissan Laurel C35. Produced from 1997 to 2002 as the 8th and final Laurel generation, the C35 tracked the same platform as the contemporary R34 Skyline, and in Top Club S-Type X specification it ran the RB25DET, a 2.5-liter turbocharged inline-6 making 280 horsepower. Available with either pure rear-wheel drive or Nissan's ATTESA four-wheel drive system. Here's the kicker. Nissan sold the Laurel exclusively through its Motor Store domestic dealer channel in Japan, completely separate from the Prince Store channel that sold the Skyline, which means there has never been a factory left-hand drive Laurel and never an official export version anywhere on Earth. Every single Laurel outside Japan's borders is, and has always been, a private gray market import. Because it shares so much of its running gear with the beloved Skyline, drift builders and daily drivers alike have spent decades treating the C35 as the value-priced alternative, a car that takes the exact same punishment as its more famous sibling and just keeps firing up every morning. As of right now, in 2026, the vast majority of the C35 production run has finally crossed the 25-year threshold, with the very last 2002 cars set to clear it next year. At number 2, we're bringing out the car most enthusiasts consider the definitive 90s Toyota sleeper, the Mark II JZX100. Built from 1996 to 2000 as the fourth generation of this chassis, the top-spec Grande GXR turbo trim ran the legendary 1JZ GTE, a 2.5-liter twin-cam turbocharged inline-six that switched from the previous generation's parallel twin-turbo setup to a single turbocharger paired with Toyota's VVT-I variable valve timing system, officially producing 280 horsepower under the same gentleman's agreement ceiling that capped nearly every car on this list. This was also the last genuinely rear-wheel drive Mark II before the next generation shifted toward front-wheel drive-based platforms, and thanks to an iron cylinder block and forged internal components, the 1JZ GTE has become legendary for shrugging off 400 to 500 horsepower worth of aftermarket boost while running on its original factory bottom end. It's a car built to look like a boring, comfortable, mid-sized Japanese executive sedan while hiding one of the most tunable turbocharged straight sixes ever mass-produced, and it stayed a strictly Japan-only product for its entire production run. By this point in 2026, essentially the entire Mark II JZX100 production run has aged past the 25-year mark, meaning the forbidden fruit is now, finally, completely legal. And that brings us to number 1, the absolute holy grail of this entire list, the car every single drift fan on the planet has been chasing for over 2 decades, the Toyota Chaser JZX100. Built from 1996 to 2001, the Chaser shared its X100 platform directly with both the Mark II and the Cresta, all 3 cars sold only within Japan, and in top-spec Tourer V trim. The Chaser ran the exact same 1JZ GTE twin-cam turbocharged inline-six as its Mark II sibling, 280 horsepower, single turbocharger, VVT-I, optionally paired with the R154 5-speed manual transmission. On paper, that makes it a near-identical twin to the Mark II we just covered. But culturally, the Chaser became something else entirely. Its more aggressive styling and razor-sharp rear-wheel drive balance made it the chosen weapon of Japan's underground drift scene throughout the late 1990s, and by the time the D1 Grand Prix Professional Drift Series officially launched in 2001, the JZX100 Chaser was already a fixture on the grid, with a young Daigo Saito, who would go on to become one of the most decorated drift champions Japan has ever produced, piloting one during his early career. Fans nicknamed it the four-door Supra, and that nickname is not an exaggeration, because underneath that conservative sedan body sits the direct mechanical cousin of the 2JZ engine that powers the legendary Supra, wrapped in an iron block bottom end so overbuilt that 450 horsepower conversions on stock internals are considered completely routine. The Chaser only became legally importable into the United States starting in September of 2021, and here, right now, in 2026, the very final 2001 model year Chasers have officially crossed the 25-year threshold, which means for the first time ever, the single most requested, most mythologized, most abused drift sedan in Japanese domestic market history is completely, 100% legal on American soil. 25 years of waiting, over, for good. So there you have it, 8 forbidden Japanese classics that spent decades getting hammered on drift tracks, punished on daily commutes, and locked out of America entirely, and every single one of them just kept starting up like nothing happened. Which one of these 8 would you actually daily drive for the next decade, and which one would you sacrifice to the drift gods on day 1? Drop your pick down in the comments below. I'll see you on the next one.